Good afternoon. Welcome to the Meltdown. I know I'm late today. I apologize to you one and all. Just been kind of hectic, but I want to dive into some really serious questions that I've bantered with Michael about. We're going to address the way coins get reported, the way you can try to figure out what some of this stuff is worth, because frankly, there are too many misnomers out there, and they need to be addressed so that you guys understand. When you see the spot price on precious metals, you see silver trading for around $20 an ounce. Currently, we're calling it $19.95. The cheapest way to buy silver, if you're not in the futures market, okay, that's a big question that a lot of people have. The only way you can buy at the spot price is if you're playing in futures. And to play in futures, you can play with leverage up to 4-1. In some cases, you probably have good enough credit, you can go 5-1. It is the leverage, it's the derivative value that's got this country and this world in so much trouble. Part of the reason that you hear some of the big players, the ETFs, the individual managers, fund managers, if you will, that are dealing in so many different areas of the market speculating in stocks, is that they can move millions of dollars around at any given time and affect the value of a market. Now, I've watched the market today, and it started in the green. It's gold, silver, and platinum have headed into the red, which means they're headed south. They're going down. Palladium's still up a little bit. And so when you buy physical metal, the premium to own 1 ounce rounds is approximately $3 over the spot price. That's a 15% premium. Depending on what you want to acquire, how you want to own your material, the premium goes up from there. It's the natural bid-ask spread between dealers buying and dealers selling. Everyone's trying to make a little bit of profit. Everyone wants to keep their premiums low. I understand that. If you buy a 10-ounce bar, then you're going to buy closer to $228 per 10 ounces, $22.80. Doesn't get much cheaper between a 1 ounce and a 10 ounce. If you go to an ingot, the premiums right now can run between 50 and 75 cents more for an ingot than a round. If you go to 100-ounce bars, you can carve off a few more dollars. But if you go to the Austrian Philharmonic, the Silver Maple Leaf, or the Silver Eagle, the premiums jump from the Philharmonic to the Maple Leaf to the Eagle. The Eagle costs more than any of them. And you're going to pay approximately $5 an ounce over spot in a bulk transaction. Dealers are in business to make money. And whether you're calling a large brokerage firm that deals in physical metal, or whether you're dealing with a smaller, quote, pop shop like mine, then ultimately we all work on different margins because we all have different forms of expense. Some dealers will do more volume, some will do less. The ones that do less probably charge a little bit more, but that's the nature of the business. Now, the internet has closed that gap up, and now it's a more competitive market. And I'm more than happy. Kelly is more than happy. Michael, when he gets somebody to chat with him, is more than happy to get out there and tell you that if someone's offering you a fair enough deal, we're going to tell you to take the transaction. You don't have to do business with us. I'm not going to go out of my way to bend over and try and make a $10 profit and incur the expense of shipping, if that's what I have to consider, to make that transaction work. What really starts to stupefy people, where the real questions start to come up, is when you look at the rare coin market. Now, I've been talking about the 1879-0, the 1884 proof, and the 1887 proof. And this is probably week 2 or week 3 of the conversation. Those coins are going to auction later this week. But the 1879-0 so far is the hotter of the 3 pieces. Now, Internally, Michael and I keep talking about these three coins, and I still firmly believe that all three of them will penetrate through $100,000. They're just not there yet. The 18790 is exceptionally rare. Two mint state 60s, a 62 and a 63. There is no reported transaction that we can find at this point that states the retail value of the 790 in mint state 62 or in mint state 63. At one time, I owned personally, I acquired them. They were part of the Eagle collection, which was the first certified set of $20 gold pieces put together, 1850 to 1907. It contained one representative example of every coin and mint mark in that gap of 150 pieces, including the three proof-only years, 1883, 1884, and 1887. The 790 currently, with the hammer, that's the auction fee, is at approximately $94,000. The indicated retail value between 4 or 5 different companies insinuates that the retail value of this coin is $135,000. Certain coins will command premiums far above and beyond the estimated value. And that's the most important factor that I can bring out when we discuss factors like the toning, the strike, the CAC stickers, the plus stickers, the stars. All of those factors affect what a coin is going to command, not just at auction, but what the dealer wants to make when he resells it. I've been doing this pretty much since the 1980s, and I have followed rare coins. I love them tremendously. I know dealers that mark up their coins over 150 percentage points. I know some dealers that work on 1%. Personally, if I'm buying it over the counter, I'm going to be as inexpensive as if you called one of the vendors that I deal with. I've been doing this a long time. I know a lot of folks, and no, not everybody's going to always be happy with a transaction. I've had people come into my store and talk to people, new employees that I've hired, and they've misquoted things because there's so much information to handle. I can tell you personally, I worked for a company in 1988 and graduated to a much larger firm in 1990. It's an intense course when you get into the industry. In 1990, when I went to work for this big company, I read the Red Book. I marked all of the coins that were important in a specific series because of the very first phone call that I was involved in. This is a company that's been around, probably since the 60s. And after a week of intense training and making notes and going home and studying, I got on the phone for the first phone call that came in, and I answered it. And I was dealing with a gentleman who had bought coins 10 years earlier from somebody other than me, obviously. It was my first day. And at the time, there were certain items in the computer fields when we could see them that were what we would pay versus the other side of the slash mark, the factor of face value. So what I'm really telling you is I could sell a 10 coin world set. It could have been worth $10, or it could have been worth 10 times the face value. That's what I'm trying to convey. So all of this intense information over a week-long period goes into my brain. The first phone call comes in. I pull up the code. I look at the item. I get confused, and I put this gentleman on hold. Went back into trading, talked to Bob. Bob tells me what the value is. It's the $10 figure. Well, knowing I'm about to get ripped on, this gentleman had paid $100 for an item that a decade later was worth $10. And he owned 10 of them. So at $1,000, he had $100 of value. And as he was explaining his feelings about all of this, he said, "What the heck do you think I ought to do with these?" And I asked him if he lived on a lake. And he said he did. I said, "Well, I would take one of them and I'd throw it out there as far as I possibly could and try to feel a little bit better about it." And of course, he slammed the phone on me. I guess maybe an hour or so later, this gentleman called me back and he said, Brett, I apologize for how I acted, but I want you to know I feel a lot better. I threw 2 of them out there. Have a great day, and I apologize, and bye-bye. And so I'm sure he ended up giving them away as gifts because they didn't have much value anymore. But my point is that here I am almost 30 years later, and I'm still talking about material. It's been 25 years since I started in this industry specifically. But ultimately, over the past 25 years, with the advent of the internet, more people do more research and compile more information that frustrates them and confuses them. Now, I can tell you that there is an estimate between these 5 reporting agencies of as little as $95,000 will be the realized price of the 1879-0. And because there are so many collectors and investors, collectivestors, that are seeking this specific piece to build a select collection of New Orleans minted $20 gold pieces, it is the last one that was produced as a $20 gold piece from New Orleans. It is very, very important. It was important when I bought the 2 coins back in 98 and 99. Current bidding is at $94,000. The wholesale guesstimate is $95,000. If there's more buyers than sellers and more people get interested, this coin's going to command a further premium. It will easily clear $100,000. We're still a couple of days before the auction takes place. More investors, more dealers, more collectors, more folks are going to want to be a part of this coin. Now, I can also tell you that the 1856 New Orleans $20 gold piece that I acquired for this collection that I built in 1999, that's when it was finished. The 1856-0 in the fall of 1998 was available, and the asking price was $595,000 for this coin. And I was completing a transaction between Christmas and New Year's with a customer at about $350,000. And I asked him to include a wire for $500,000 so I could go to the first show of the calendar year. This was actually, I'm sorry, late 98 was the first show in 1999. And I remember it because when the show opened, I went right to the dealer. I was right inside the front door, and I approached him and said, I want to see the 1856 New Orleans $20 gold piece. At the time, it was PCGS graded. It was in a Regency holder. You don't see Regency holders any longer. It was a long PCGS certified holder. And my buddy looked down and said, see, it's right there. And so I looked down at it. And I said, I want to hold it. I want to see the coin in my hand. And it was just another $20 gold piece. But it's a very special coin. The lowest mintage, specimen, specially prepared planchets, specially prepared dies. The coin's proof like it's an amazing specimen. The guy who owned it wanted $595,000. I told him I'd pay him $10,000 over his cost, not a penny more. And my client, who had sent me the $500,000, said, Brett, how do you buy a $600,000 coin for $500,000? I said, that's for me to know and you to find out. He said, I'll send you the money. I told him once I got it, if I couldn't buy the coin, I'd wire the funds right back to him when I returned from the show. So I'm standing there with my buddy, and I said I'd pay $10,000 over his cost. The show had just opened, and this man had a horseshoe, probably 9 tables. We sat in the corner. He spun his cost book around. We added up the interest, hit the total. I want to say that his cost at the time was about $430,000. I wrote him a check for $440,000. He asked me if I'd wire him the funds. I said, no, I wanted to be able to write a check for $440,000 and know that it cleared. He said, I'm going to overnight it. I said, I don't care. And so the transaction took place. I made much more than what I expected to make on the coin. I was thrilled with the transaction. Well, the following week, I got a big box in the mail. I thought it was maybe a fruit basket or a chocolate basket, and was kind of impressed by the size of the box, and that's why I drew the conclusion. But when I opened the box, inside was a whole lot of popcorn, and there was a box in the center of the package, and there was the coin. And I was really shocked because I figured at that kind of a value, the coin, somebody would have flown it into me. Well, that's not how it happened. And of course, I called and thanked them for shipping it, but was really kind of spoofed about how I was going to get it to my client, who I'm in Houston, he's up in Washington State. And all this gentleman said was hang up, call the insurance company that you use for shipping, and get them to give you a waiver, ship it the way they tell you, and go handle the business. And that's exactly what I did. And a few days later, my client called me and he used to cuss like a sailor. And sure enough, there's this coin. He said, what the heck am I supposed to do with it? And I said, why don't you put it in your pocket and go put it in the bank? His question to me was, did you make enough money on the coin? I said, I did really well, better than I expected. Thank you for the transaction. So what I want to tell you is that the 1856 New Orleans $20 gold piece, that the asking price was at $595,000, I transacted for $500,000. Now, I'm sorry that the client who bought it auctioned it with really bad advice and ended up losing money on the coin. I can tell you about 3 years ago it resold. It resold at $1.4 million. Today I would guesstimate that the value of that coin is significantly higher. And the guy who paid $310,000 did really well on it. The guy who paid $500,000 didn't. And that's sad because of the 150 coins, the man owned one of them when the auction was done. He lost money on the transaction. We paid over $3 million for this collection. And the bottom line is that if you could put it together today, and there are coins that are finer than what I put together back in 1998 and 1999, I guesstimate the value to be $15 to $20 million today. We paid $3 million, but timing was not on our side. Got bad information. And so that's what I'm really going to tell you, is that you can look online, and I've been beating up a former customer. I like him. I'm sorry that he decided to take lay people who don't know anything about the coin industry and took it to heart. There will be in excess of 5,000 to 7,000 coins auctioned this week. And it's impossible for all of those transactions to be entered into, quote, the retail weekly price guides. It's not possible. And in 2 weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks, everybody will be traveling to the West Coast, and there will be another major sale. And there will be another 5,000 to 10,000 coins that are transacted. Folks, if you want your information to be made anonymous, and nobody wants their name spread out there anymore, not with the advent of the internet, if it doesn't get reported, then the movement in the market is not reflected. And so that's what I'm going to tell you. This is part of the conversation Michael and I had before I hit the start button, is that because a price guide, whether it's a wholesale guide or a retail guide, reflects the value of a coin, it doesn't take into consideration the look of the coin, the plus, the star, the CAC, the green CAC, the gold CAC. It doesn't take into consideration the fact that coin grading has emerged over a generation of time. Now, I'm not talking about the time, 20, 30 years. I'm talking about the generations of coin graders that have come and gone. The old Rattler holder from PCGS, or in the case of NGC, a black holder, which they've now retrofitted and started reusing. But the original NGC holder was black. Then it was a fatty holder, and then it's gone through its metamorphosis of change. We, dealers, know how to predate the coin when it was certified by the holder. And ultimately, dealers reholder coins all the time. And so my message to you is that the reason you deal with a dealer with 25 or 30 or 40 years of experience Some of the reasons why certain dealers stay in non-graded coins is because sometimes you can't see the imperfections in the coins. I dealt with a former dealer. He was probably active over the last 10 to 40 years. And his coins that I submitted, there are so many of them that have problems. They were whizzed or wiped. The grading companies would not give them formal grades. They called them genuine and net graded the coins, ultimately affecting coins by thousands of dollars in some cases. You can argue all you want. The characteristics of grading a coin that's dated in the 1790s is different than the way it was graded in the 1890s and the way it's going to be graded in the 1990s. Characteristics of coins change. The grader's eyes change. The subjectivity and the objectivity of the coin graders change. So there's a lot of different factors that go into what happened and why coins look the way they do. Now, I wanted to get on a soapbox and talk a little bit about the economy, the fact that there are so many analysts that are expecting tapering to go from the 80 billion figure down to as little as 25 billion by the end of the calendar year. 60% of economists believe one thing and 90% believe another. And really what you've got is you've got a whole lot of speculation out there as to what the markets really are going to do or they're not going to do. What I can unequivocally tell you is that they're going to be active. And there's going to be coins that trade for hundreds of thousands of dollars, whether they're in gold or silver or copper, whether they're little bitty the size of your pinky nail, or whether they're some of the biggest coins. Dealers are raising more money. They're looking for more opportunity. And now you've got talk of funds coming back into the marketplace where there are international concerns moving tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. They're relying on the management of capital, of knowledge. And you can't tell me, folks, I keep talking about these two simple coins, an 1881 San Francisco Morgan silver dollar and an 1882 San Francisco Morgan, two of the most common date Morgan silver dollars in the marketplace. 96 coins before you get to all the different varieties makes a complete set. And you can pay for a Mint State 65 anywhere from a couple of $100 to $7,000. I've seen it happen. I've talked about it on the podcast. And ultimately, it doesn't mean the $200 coin is a better value than the one for $1,000 or $2,000 or $5,000 or $6,000, let alone the asking price at $7,000. Special pedigree, special looks, special CAC stickers, toning, all those factors. And then the 1882 San Francisco in Mint State 64, a coin that sells for less than $100, when you see one that's got the right toning and the right color and the dealer wants a couple of grand, doesn't mean he's overpriced his coin. Is he working on 10, 20, 30 percentage points? Maybe. You don't know what he paid. He might have paid $100 for it. And as a Mint State 64, it was worth $100. It was actually worth about $80, but he had to get it graded. And the fact that there's toning there and he chose not to give the guy $1,000, the 100 might have been the highest offer he had gotten. It's happened in my store. I don't mind paying a premium for premium coins. I had 2 half-ounce gold eagles in here yesterday. One had a big scratch on it. I paid less for it than the other one by about 7%. So my point is that I understand you wanting to be critical. I understand you wanting a simple formula. But folks, it's not simple. You've got subjectivity and objectivity. And you've got a market that has so many different emotions tied to it. Do dealers sometimes ask too much for their product? Absolutely they do. I'm one of them. There's been material in here that I want the sun in the morning and the moon at night. But if you want to make me a fair offer, I'm willing to consider it. I'll always consider it. The question is whether I'll take it. And if I buy the material right, will I sell it like a dealer to another dealer? Absolutely I will. It just depends on what you're talking about. Show's gone longer than what I wanted, but it really is an emotional topic because there are dealers who understand looking on a computer screen and lowballing a bid, or I can look at a gray sheet, which is the wholesale transactions, and I can tell you I'll pay 80% or 70% of those figures. And depending on the packaging and the other variables that dealers look at, you're looking at a computer screen. You still think because you've got a bank account or a savings account or a CD or a brokerage account, maybe it's your IRA or your 401k, and it says you've got $100,000, you're looking at a computer screen because the bank or the brokerage firm didn't want to send you a statement anymore. They were charging you $2 a month and you didn't want to pay it. Folks, you don't have your money, period. A 401k is controlled by your employer. Call your HR department, ask them to write you the check. Unless you are unemployed or leaving their employment, you can't do that. If you got stocks in your IRA, you can't sell them and have the money tonight. You can borrow against it, but you can't have the money. That's a 3 to a 5 day to a 15-day settlement, depending on what market you're in. Not just the Dow, not just the NASDAQ, not just the S&P. You might be in over-the-counter trading. You might be in penny stocks. That could take longer. All I'm telling you is that there's a lot of variables out there that you've got to take into consideration when you own something, when you want to get liquid in it. What are your goals and objectives? And that's what I've talked about for years. Do dealers work on spreads that can be 10, 20, 30 percentage points? We absolutely do and have and will. And there are some coins that you're going to be able to buy at an auction and you may get a horrible deal. I've sat in a room and seen somebody who doesn't have experience get played off of 5 or 6 dealers and they just chuckle about it. And they make people pay more than what things are worth at the time. But that's the nature of the beast. Some of these guys have been doing this for 30, 40 years. And they wait for somebody, quote, a newbie to step into the auction room and all hell breaks loose. All I'm telling you is there's a reason why you pay a premium. And if you want to understand more about that, you need to call me. It's 281-548-2646. That's 281-548-2646 or toll free 877-705-2646. Hit option 0. You get a live voice. We'll be more than happy to accommodate you, answer questions. Folks, you can email me anytime. That's Brett, B-R-E-T-T, at thegoldexchange.net. I always encourage you to reach out, get some questions answered. I love to answer questions. It's really important to assist you in understanding how to do this. And if you want to watch me live, you go to Ustream, register under the meltdown.com. I'm not sure how long it takes to do it. When I do a podcast, it's live. Michael gets them uploaded, I'm going to say, normally within 30 minutes or so. No? About an hour. But when I do a show, that's what Michael focuses in on. Gets it uploaded so that you can ask questions, take notes. There's not a lot of commercial message any longer in what I do. He did tell me that I'm only at about 377 and a half hours since I did this show. And so I'm working on 400, but we're going to get there eventually. Folks, this is that time to really focus on your portfolio. There are dealers out there who absolutely believe that, quote, the market is near its peak. The Dow is up 118 points today. The NASDAQ is up. The S&P is up. The 10-year yield is down a little bit. Oil is back to about $94 a barrel. What does it mean to you if you're trading in small increments? It doesn't mean very much at all. There are people that are making money today and people that are losing, and some may be shorting and some may be going long. And if none of that makes sense to you, then you're the person that might want to come visit me in Humble at 113 West 1st Street. It's easy to get to. Michael's got maps on thegoldexchange.net and themeltdown.com. Yes? No. That'll be something else we work on. If you go to the links page, you can click on the links and get more information, more data, and I'll keep tweaking Michael and we'll keep tweaking websites. Folks, this is that time. I said it earlier. I want to assist you in understanding why different material makes sense in your portfolio. I started a third, and a third. The more you read, the more you understand, the more you get into it, the more weighted it becomes. I've got clients at 40%, 40% and 20, and then I've got 20, 40, and 40, and some that we've changed this formula up. It's based on your age, your goals, and objectives. That's the bottom line. Now, I never try to get off a podcast without thanking Texas Children's Hospital, both the Downs Clinic and the Ronald McDonald House. If you visit themeltdown.com, there are 2 donation banners. Your information is anonymous for me, but you can make a tithe or an offering to either the Downs Clinic, which is the Meyer Center, no longer at the Fannin location of Texas Children's. Dr. Ostermeyer is very busy. She helps all kinds of disabilities. The Ronald McDonald House is on the 4th floor, 20 rooms, probably 40 to 60 people a night. Families that are diligent in supporting their kids while they're in the hospital. If you can provide a hot meal, please call 832-824-8600. That's 832-824-8600. Nancy Allen and her staff will be more than happy to help accommodate you or answer questions. Folks, I appreciate the doctors, the nurses, the staff, and of course the volunteers at Texas Children's throughout the medical center and around the world. I love the kids, and they need our help and our love. Now, I hope you enjoy your day. I'll be back tomorrow morning. I'll try to be here early enough to get it taken care of. If you've got any questions, please go to themeltdown.com, email or call us. We'll be more than happy to help you. Have a great afternoon, and God bless you. We'll see you tomorrow.